The great chamber fell silent as the final vote was cast. 200 years of waiting had come to an end. The quarantine on Earth was officially over. Ambassador Valeth stood among the gathered representatives of 1,000 worlds. Her pale blue skin reflected the soft glow of the holographic displays that filled the room. She had served the Council for 3 centuries, and she had seen many species join the galactic community. Some came with gratitude. Others came with fear. All of them eventually learned their place. Humanity would be no different. High Counselor. Merithex rose from his elevated seat at the center of the chamber. His ancient body was more machine than flesh now, kept alive by technologies older than most civilizations. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of 10,000 years of galactic order. The species known as humanity has completed their developmental period, he announced. Their quarantine ends today. Ambassador Valeth will deliver our invitation for them to join the galactic community as a junior member species. Valeth bowed her head in acceptance. It was a simple assignment. She would travel to Earth, meet with their leaders, and explain the rules. Humanity would pay tribute. They would accept council oversight. They would be grateful for the protection and trade opportunities that membership provided. Every species was grateful eventually. 3 weeks later, Valeth's diplomatic vessel entered the Sol system. She had studied the reports from 2 centuries ago when humanity had made first contact. It had been a disaster. Human ships had wandered into 3 different star systems within a single year, causing political incidents that took decades to resolve. The Council had decided that humanity needed time to mature before joining galactic civilization. Now that time was over, but as Valeth's ship approached Earth, something felt wrong. The planet below was beautiful. Green forests covered the continents. The ocean sparkled under the yellow sun. Cities dotted the surface, connected by networks of clean transportation. By every measure, humanity had thrived during their isolation. Yet there were no defense platforms in orbit. No military vessels patrolled the system. And when Valeth attempted to contact the planetary government, no one answered. She ordered her crew to scan for communication signals. They found millions of them. People were talking to each other constantly through devices that seemed primitive, but surprisingly effective. But there was no central broadcast. No government channel. No one speaking for the entire species. "Take us down," Valeth commanded. They landed in what had once been called North America, in a city that historical records identified as significant. The streets were clean and busy. Humans walked past her vessel without fear, some of them waving in greeting. Children pointed at the strange ship and laughed with excitement rather than terror. A human woman approached them. She was older, with gray hair and warm brown eyes. She wore simple clothing and carried no weapons. No guards accompanied her. "Welcome to Earth," the woman said with a genuine smile. "My name is Dara. I coordinate community relations for this region. How can we help you?" Valeth was confused. "I am Ambassador Valeth of the Galactic Council. I am here to meet with your planetary government." Dara's smile did not fade, but something shifted in her eyes. "I understand. You have been away for a long time. Things have changed here. Changed how?" "We do not have a planetary government anymore," Dara explained. "We found that large centralized structures created more problems than they solved. Now, we organize in smaller communities that cooperate with each other voluntarily." Valeth felt a headache forming behind her eyes. "Then who speaks for humanity?" "Everyone speaks for themselves," Dara said. "And communities speak for their members when needed. If you want to negotiate something, you will need to talk to the specific communities involved." This was impossible. No species could function this way at scale. It violated every principle of galactic sociology. "I need to speak with someone in authority," Valeth insisted. "You're speaking with someone," Dara replied gently. "I have authority over my own choices and actions, just like everyone else here. What do you need from us?" Valeth took a deep breath. She would have to adapt her approach. "The Galactic Council wishes to formally invite humanity to join as a junior member species. This would provide you with protection, trade access, and a voice in galactic affairs," Yeah, that sounds lovely, Dara said. But I think you should know something first. Most of us are not here. What do you mean? Earth is our homeworld, and many humans still live here. But most of humanity left a long time ago. We spread out. Last I heard, there were human communities in 47 different star systems. Valeth's crew exchanged worried glances. The quarantine had been designed to contain humanity to their home system. Clearly it had not worked. How? Valeth demanded. You were restricted from developing faster-than-light travel. Dara shrugged. We did not develop it. We were given it. Other species visited us over the years. Some of them did not agree with the Council's quarantine. They shared what they knew. We shared what we knew. Friendships formed. That is a violation of galactic law. Perhaps Dara agreed. But we did not sign any galactic laws. And the people who helped us were already outside your system. They came to us because they had nowhere else to go. Valeth's mind raced. This was not just a diplomatic complication. This was a crisis. Humanity had spread beyond containment. They had made alliances with unknown parties, and they had done it all without the Council's knowledge or permission. She returned to her ship and immediately contacted High Counselor Marathex. His ancient face appeared on her screen, his expression unreadable. Report, he commanded. The situation is more complex than we anticipated, Valeth said. She explained everything she had learned. The lack of central government, the spread to other systems, the unauthorized contact with outside species. Marathex listened without interruption. When Valeth finished, he was silent for a long moment. This is concerning but not insurmountable, he finally said. Without centralized leadership, they have no real power. Without military structure, they have no way to resist us. They will come to us when they need something. They always do. Valeth was not so sure, but she did not argue with the High Counselor. Return to Council space, Marathex ordered. We will monitor the situation and wait for them to request our assistance. As Valeth's ship lifted off from Earth, a junior analyst on board approached her nervously. Ambassador, I found something strange in the long-range sensor data. What is it? Several species that we had lost contact with decades ago. Species that refused Council membership or fled our territory. They are appearing in the systems where humans have settled. Valeth frowned. Refugees often gather in lawless regions? That is what I thought at first, the analyst said. But Ambassador, they are not just surviving out there. According to these readings, they are thriving. Their populations are growing. Their technology is advancing. Some of them are doing better than they ever did under Council protection. Valeth stared at the data for a long time. Something was happening in human space. Something the Council had not predicted. And for the first time in her long career, she was not sure if the Council truly understood what they were dealing with. The quarantine had ended. But humanity had already moved beyond anyone's reach. End of Part 1. The Galactic Council could only watch humanity had moved beyond their reach. Part 2. 6 months passed before the Council sent Valeth back to investigate the human anomaly. Reports kept arriving from the edges of known space. Strange signals. Unusual trade patterns. Species that had been silent for generations, suddenly communicating again. All of it traced back to human space. High Counselor Marathex had grown impatient. The Council needed answers. They needed to understand what humanity was building out there in the darkness between stars. Valeth traveled alone this time, with only a small crew. Her destination was a remote system that intelligence reports identified as a major human waste station. She expected to find a struggling outpost. Perhaps a mining colony or a refugee camp. Something primitive that would prove humans were barely surviving without Council support. What she found was something else entirely. The station hung in orbit around a barren moon. But there was nothing barren about the station itself. It stretched across kilometers of space, a sprawling network of connected modules and docking bays. Ships of every design came and went constantly. Valeth counted at least 30 different species in the first hour of observation. None of them were Council members. She requested permission to dock, half expecting to be refused. Instead, a cheerful human voice welcomed her. and assigned her a bay near the central hub. No guards met her when she stepped off her ship. No officials demanded identification or tribute. A young human simply handed her a small device that would translate any language. She encountered and wished her a pleasant stay. Valeth wandered through the station in a state of growing disbelief. The corridors were clean and well-maintained. People of different species walked together, talking and laughing. She saw a group of children from at least 5 different worlds playing some kind of game in an open courtyard, in a market area. She found a Crethany merchant selling handcrafted goods. The Crethany were a species that had fled Council territory 3 centuries ago, unwilling to pay the heavy taxes required for membership. The Council had declared them outlaws and criminals. Here, Crethany was running a successful business and smiling at customers. Valeth approached him carefully. "May I ask you some questions?" The merchant looked at her council insignia and tensed slightly, but then he relaxed and nodded. "You are far from home, Ambassador. What brings you to the Weave?" "The Weave. That is what we call this network of stations and settlements. The humans gave it that name. They say we are all threads woven together," he chuckled. "Poetic creatures, humans. I am trying to understand how this place functions," Valeth admitted. "How does this economy work? Who enforces the laws? Who protects you from exploitation?" The merchant considered her questions carefully. "There is no single authority here. Different communities govern themselves. When disputes arise, respected mediators help find solutions. As for exploitation," he laughed softly, "the humans have a strange way of preventing that." "What way?" "They remember everything. Not officially. Not in laws or contracts. But they remember who helps and who harms. They remember who shares and who hoards, and word spreads quickly. If you cheat someone here, every human in every system will know within days. No one will trade with you. No one will shelter you. You will be alone." Valeth frowned. "That sounds like social punishment." "No," the merchant said thoughtfully. "It is more like social consequences. The humans do not hunt down those who break trust. They simply stop helping them. And when you remove yourself from the web of mutual aid, you quickly realize how much you needed it. But that system could be abused. Someone could spread false rumors. They could try. But the humans investigate. They listen to all sides. They are remarkably fair about it. I think it comes from their history. They spent so long hurting each other that they finally learned how much it costs." Valeth spent 3 days on the station, observing and asking questions. She met a Marani family who had been born in human space. The Marani homeworld had been destroyed by the Council 4 centuries ago, punished for refusing to submit. The survivors had scattered across the galaxy, hunted and homeless. Here, the children had never known fear. They went to school alongside humans and Crethony and a dozen other species. They spoke of the future with hope rather than despair. She found Dara again. The woman she had met on Earth? Dara traveled frequently between human settlements, helping coordinate cooperation between communities. "How does this actually work?" Valeth asked her directly. "Every economic model predicts that systems like this should collapse. Without enforcement, people should exploit each other. Without hierarchy, nothing should get done." Ada smiled patiently. She had clearly answered this question many times before. "Your models assume that people are naturally selfish and must be forced to cooperate," she said. "We found the opposite is true. People naturally want to help each other. They want to belong to something larger than themselves. The problem with most systems is that they crush those instincts under layers of rules and punishments. But you must have some rules, of course. Communities set their own guidelines. But the guidelines focus on enabling cooperation rather than preventing harm. We trust people to be good until they prove otherwise, and we give them every opportunity to make things right when they fail." "That seems naive." "It seemed naive to us too at first," Dara admitted. "But we had no choice. When we started spreading to other systems, we could not build the kind of enforcement structures that large governments use. We did not have the resources or the desire. So we tried something different. We built systems based on trust and transparency. We made helping others the highest status anyone could achieve. She paused and looked at Valeth with genuine curiosity. Tell me, Ambassador, in council space, what happens when someone falls on hard times? When they cannot pay their tribute or meet their obligations? Valeth considered the question. They receive assistance through official channels. If they cannot recover, they may lose their status or be relocated to labor assignments. And here, when someone struggles, their neighbors bring them food. Their friends help them find work. The community gathers to solve the problem together. No one loses their dignity. No one is punished for being unlucky. That cannot scale. It scales better than you would think. Because every person who is helped becomes someone who wants to help others. The kindness multiplies. We have found that generosity is contagious. Valeth returned to council space with a report that she knew would disturb the High Counselor. She explained the economy of trust. She described the networks of mutual aid. She warned that humanity had built something the council could not infiltrate, regulate, or tax. Marathex read her report in silence. When he finished, his ancient face twisted with something that might have been anger or might have been fear. They threaten the foundations of galactic order, he said slowly. If other species see that they can thrive without council protection, without tribute, without submission, everything we have built could unravel. What do you propose? Valeth asked. We offer them what they cannot refuse. Protection from external threats. We send a peacekeeping delegation to establish a formal presence in their space, and if they refuse... Marathex did not answer directly, but his eyes said everything as Valeth left the chamber. She accessed the intelligence files on the species living in human space. The Krathani traders, the Marani refugees, the Valori telepaths, the Santhic engineers. Dozens of others, many of them were species the Council had declared criminals. Some were species the Council had actively hunted for centuries. The peacekeeping delegation would not be there to protect anyone. It would be there to reclaim what the Council believed it owned, and Valeth was no longer sure which side she was on. End of part 2. The Galactic Council could only watch. Humanity had moved beyond their reach. Part 3. Commander Thix had served the Council military for 50 years. He had crushed rebellions on a dozen worlds. He had enforced tribute collection across 3 sectors. He had never failed a mission. Now he stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the sprawling human station called the Weave, and felt something he had not felt in decades. Uncertainty. His fleet consisted of 12 warships. Enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The Council had sent him to deliver an ultimatum. The humans would surrender the fugitive species they were sheltering, or they would face consequences. It should have been simple. Overwhelming force usually made negotiations very short, but as Thix studied the station, he noticed something strange. There were almost no weapons. A few defensive platforms floated in distant orbits, clearly designed to deflect asteroids rather than attack ships. The station itself had no visible armaments. The civilian vessels coming and going carried no military escorts. These people were completely undefended. Any competent commander would see this as an opportunity. Strike fast, seize control, dictate terms. That was how the galaxy worked. Yet Thix hesitated. He ordered his communications officer to hail the station. A human face appeared on a screen within seconds. It was the woman from the reports. Dara. Commander Thix, she said calmly. We have been expecting you. How can we help? You can surrender the criminals you are harboring, Thix replied. The Valori, the Marani, the Krathani, and all others who have fled council justice. Do this, and we will leave peacefully. Dara's expression did not change. Those people are our neighbors and friends. They came to us seeking safety, and we gave it to them. We will not hand them over to be punished for crimes they did not commit. The council has declared them fugitives. The council is not welcome to make declarations about people who do not live under council authority. Thix felt his jaw tighten. You do not have the military power to resist us. That is true, Dara agreed. We chose not to build weapons of war. We decided that protecting each other through violence would eventually destroy what we were trying to build. Then you have no leverage in this negotiation. We have something better than leverage, Commander. We have the truth. Everyone in this station, everyone in human space, has chosen to be here. They came because they wanted to live differently. They stay because this life has meaning. If you attack us, you will not be conquering an enemy. You will be killing people who never raised a hand against you. Thix had heard desperate speeches before. People always found noble words when they faced overwhelming force. But something in Dara's voice was different. She was not desperate. She was not afraid. She was simply stating facts. You have 6 hours to reconsider, Thix said. After that, I will begin operations to secure this station. The communication ended. Thix turned to his tactical officer and ordered a full threat assessment. The results confirmed what he already knew. The station was defenseless. An assault would take perhaps 2 hours. Casualties on his side would be minimal. Victory was certain. So why did it feel wrong? For hours into the deadline, something unexpected happened. A small transport requested permission to approach his flagship. The ship carried a single passenger who wished to speak with the commander privately. Against his better judgment, Thix agreed. The visitor was a Velour elder, one of the telepaths the Council had hunted for generations. The Velori were considered dangerous because they could share thoughts and memories directly with other beings. The Council feared that such abilities could undermine loyalty and social control. The elder was ancient, her pale skin almost translucent. She moved slowly, supported by a walking staff. She posed no physical threat to anyone. "Commander," she said, in a voice like wind through leaves, "I asked to see you because I believe you are not a cruel man. I believe you follow orders because you think the Council serves the greater good." "The Council maintains order in the galaxy," Thix replied stiffly. "Without order, there is chaos." "May I show you something?" the elder asked. "I will not enter your mind without permission. But if you allow it, I can share memories. Not arguments or manipulation. Just truth." Thix should have refused. Telepathic contact with a Valerie was forbidden. But curiosity won over caution. "Show me," he said. The elder reached out and touched his hand. Suddenly Thix was somewhere else. He saw a council fleet arriving at a peaceful world. The Mirani homeworld. The inhabitants had refused to pay tribute, claiming that their resources belonged to their children, not to distant rulers. The council had decided to make an example. He felt the terror of millions as the orbital bombardment began. He experienced the desperate prayers of parents shielding children who would never grow up. He witnessed the final moments of an entire civilization erased because they said no. Then the vision shifted. He saw the survivors scattered and hunted across the galaxy. He saw children who grew up hiding, always running, never safe. He felt their despair, their loneliness, their fading hope. And then he saw humans. Strange, soft, short-lived creatures who arrived in ships held together with hope and determination. They brought medicine and food. They asked for nothing in return. They said simply, "You are welcome here. You are safe now." He felt what the Mirani felt in that moment. Not just relief, rebirth. A reason to live again. The elder released his hand. Thix realized his face was wet with tears he did not remember shedding. "That is what you would destroy today," the elder said quietly. "Not an enemy. Not a threat. A sanctuary. The only place in the galaxy where my people, and so many others, have found peace." Thix stood in silence for a long time after the elder left. When the deadline arrived, he contacted the council directly. High Counselor Marathex appeared on his screen, ancient face expectant. "Commander, have they surrendered?" "They have not," Thix said carefully. "I recommend strategic delay. The tactical situation is more complex than our intelligence suggested." "Complex how?" "Your scans show no defenses." "That is precisely the problem. If we attack an undefended civilian station, we will not be seen as enforcers of order. We will be seen as murderers. Word will spread. Other species will question whether council protection is worth the price. We may win this battle and lose something far more valuable." Marathex studied him through the screen. "You are compromised, Commander. I'm reporting my professional assessment. Return to Council space. You are relieved of command. The communication ended. But Thix did not immediately order his fleet to withdraw. Instead, he sat in his chair and thought about what he had seen, what he had felt, what it meant. In Council space, the High Council convened an emergency session. Ambassador Valeth watched from the gallery as Marethex addressed the gathered representatives. Commander Thix has failed his duty, Marethex announced. He has been influenced by enemy manipulation. We will assemble a full military intervention. No more negotiations. No more delays. We will end this human experiment once and for all. Valeth listened to the angry speeches that followed. Representatives competed to express their outrage at humanity's defiance. They spoke of order and stability and the necessity of strength. But Valeth kept thinking about what she had seen in human space. The children playing without fear, the merchants trading without exploitation, the refugees finding hope. The Council was not afraid of human weapons. They had none. The Council was afraid of human ideas, because if those ideas spread, if other species saw that a different way was possible, then everything the Council had built might crumble. Not from military defeat. From simple comparison, as the vote for military action passed unanimously, a message arrived from human space. Valeth read it on her personal device. It was not a threat, not a plea for mercy, not a demand for negotiation. It was an invitation. Come see what we have built, it said. Come meet the people who live here. Come understand why we cannot surrender them. Before you decide to destroy everything, come witness what you would be destroying. Then make your choice. Valeth forwarded the message to Marethex. She did not know what he would decide, but she knew what she hoped. End of part 3. The Galactic Council could only watch humanity, had moved beyond their reach part, for High Counselor Marethex had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had watched species evolve from primitives to starfarers. He had made decisions that shaped the destiny of trillions. Nothing had prepared him for humanity. The invitation had arrived like a challenge. Come see what we have built. As if these short-lived creatures had accomplished something worth seeing. As if their few decades of independence could compare to millennia of council order, Marethex decided to accept. Not because he was curious, because he wanted to understand his enemy before destroying them. He wanted to see their weakness up close. He traveled with Ambassador Valeth and a small security team. The humans had promised unrestricted access to every station, every settlement, every community in their space. They would hide nothing. It was either supreme confidence or supreme foolishness. Marethex intended to discover which. The first thing he noticed when he arrived at the weave was the noise. Not the mechanical hum of life support systems or the rumble of engines. The noise of people. Talking, laughing, arguing, singing. The station was alive with voices in 100 different languages. The second thing he noticed was that no one seemed afraid of him. Council representatives usually inspired fear wherever they went. Their arrival meant inspections, demands, judgments. People hid their valuables and practiced their excuses. But here, people simply greeted him politely and went about their business. Some even offered him food or directions. It was deeply unsettling. Dara served as their guide. She took them through residential areas where families from different species lived side by side. She showed them schools where children learned together, taught by teachers from a dozen different worlds. She walked them through markets where goods were traded freely, without the heavy tariffs that funded council operations. Marethex looked for signs of hidden control. Someone had to be in charge. Someone had to be extracting wealth from this system. That was how civilizations worked. But he found nothing. The humans genuinely seemed to operate through voluntary cooperation. Communities made decisions together. Disputes were resolved through discussion. Resources flowed to where they were needed without central direction. This is inefficient, Marethex observed during a tour of a food distribution center. A properly managed system would optimize allocation through central planning. The human running the center, an older man with kind eyes, smiled at him. Efficient for what purpose? Our goal is not to maximize output. Our goal is to make sure no one goes hungry. By that measure, we are very efficient indeed. But surely some people take more than their share. Sometimes, when that happens, we talk to them. Usually they are struggling with something else, and the hoarding is a symptom. Address the real problem, and the hoarding stops. Punishing them would only make things worse. Aerothex had no response to this. It contradicted everything he knew about managing populations. They visited a settlement of Marani refugees. These were the descendants of survivors from the world the Council had destroyed 4 centuries ago. Marathex expected to find bitter, broken people nursing ancient grudges. Instead, he found a thriving community. Children ran through gardens, playing games with human and Crethany friends. Artists created beautiful works that blended Marani traditions with new influences. A memorial stood at the center of the settlement, honoring those who had been lost. But it was surrounded by flowers and signs of life, rather than darkness and despair. A young Marani woman noticed Marathex studying the memorial. She approached him without hostility. "My grandmother was 5 years old when the Council destroyed our homeworld," she said. She remembered hiding in a shelter while the sky burned. She remembered her parents staying behind, so she could escape. Marathex said nothing. What could he say? For a long time, she hated the Council. She dreamed of revenge. But the humans taught her something different. They said that holding on to hatred was like drinking poison and expecting your enemy to die. They helped her find a new purpose. She spent the last decades of her life teaching our history to young people, so we would remember who we were without being defined by what was done to us. "Do you hate the Council?" Marathex asked. The woman considered the question. "I hate what the Council did, but hatred is exhausting, and I have better things to do with my life. I would rather build something beautiful than spend my energy on revenge." They moved on. Valeth walked beside Marathex, watching his reactions carefully. The High Counselor's ancient face revealed nothing, but she sensed something shifting behind his eyes. In a quiet moment, Marathex demanded to speak with humanity's leader. He needed someone to negotiate with, someone to threaten, someone who could surrender on behalf of everyone else. Dara brought him to meet Elder Jin, human philosopher who had helped develop the principles that guided human civilization. Jin was old by human standards, with white hair and a face marked by years of thought and experience. "I am not a leader," Jin explained. "I am a teacher. Sometimes people listen to me, and sometimes they disagree. That is as it should be. Someone must have authority," Marathex insisted. "Someone must make decisions that bind everyone else." Why? The simple question stopped Marathex cold. He had never considered it. Authority was simply how things worked. Someone led, others followed. That was the natural order, because otherwise nothing would get done, he finally said. Jin nodded thoughtfully. That is what we believe too, for most of our history. Our ancestors fought wars over who would control whom. Millions died because someone wanted to sit on a throne. Eventually, some of us began to wonder if there was a different way. And you found one. We found many. Different communities try different approaches. Some work better than others. We share what we learn and adapt. The only rule we all agree on is that no one may force their way on others. Beyond that, we experiment. That is chaos. It looks like chaos from outside. From inside, it feels like freedom. Jin paused and studied Marathex with gentle curiosity. Tell me, High Counselor, in your 10,000 years of rule, how many species have flourished under Council guidance, and how many have withered? Marathex did not answer. He knew the statistics. He knew how many worlds had been stabilized into stagnation, how many cultures had been homogenized into compliance, how many innovations had been suppressed because they threatened the existing order. The tour continued for 3 more days. Marathex saw former slave species now serving as respected teachers. He saw engineering marvels created by Santhic craftsmen who had fled Council labor camps. He saw art and music and science flowering in every direction, unrestricted by regulation or control. On the final day, something unexpected happened. A human child. no more than 8 years old, approached Merithex as he prepared to leave. The child held something in her small hands, a piece of paper covered in colorful drawings. "I made this for you," the child said, holding up the paper. Merithex took it carefully. The drawing showed a star map, crude but recognizable. Little symbols marked different locations. The child had drawn smiling faces next to each one, representing the different species that lived in human space. In one corner, she had drawn the Council's territory. Instead of labeling it enemy or dangerous, she had written a single word in careful letters: neighbors. "My teacher says you might be angry with us," the child explained. "But I think maybe you are just lonely. All your friends are far away. Maybe if you come visit more, you will not be so angry anymore." Merithex stared at the drawing. His hands, which had signed orders condemning entire worlds, trembled slightly. That evening, he sat alone in his quarters on the Weave. The fleet waited for his command. The Council expected him to authorize the attack. Everything he had built over 10,000 years told him that humanity was a threat to galactic order, but he kept looking at the child's drawing. The smiling faces. The word neighbors. For the first time in millennia, High Counselor Merithex did not know what to do. End of Part 4. The Galactic Council could only watch. Humanity had moved beyond their reach. Part 5. The fleet surrounded the Weave like a ring of fire. 200 warships from every corner of Council space, enough firepower to crack a planet in half. The largest military force assembled in 3 centuries. High Counselor Merithex had returned from human space without giving the order to attack. The Council had decided he was compromised, just like Commander Thix before him. They had taken command of the operation themselves. Placing Admiral Corax in charge, Corax was known for efficiency and ruthlessness. He had never hesitated, never questioned, never failed. When the Council gave him an order, he executed it perfectly. The order was simple: destroy the Weave, scatter the human settlements, recapture the fugitive species. Restore order. Corax prepared his fleet for the assault. In 3 hours, the station and everyone on it would be debris. But Admiral Corax had a problem. His crews were talking. Commander Thix had shared what he experienced with the Vellery Elder. Other officers had heard rumors about what Merithex saw during his visit. Messages had spread through unofficial channels describing the human settlements, the refugee communities, the children who had never known fear. Soldiers began asking questions. Not openly, not yet. But in quiet corners and private communications, they wondered. Were they about to kill innocent people? Were they about to destroy something that posed no military threat? Was this what they had signed up for? 3 hours before the scheduled attack, Valeth made her move. She had spent the journey to human space preparing. She had gathered recordings from her visits, testimonies from refugees, data about human communities. She had documented everything she had witnessed, and now she transmitted it all, on every channel she could access, to every ship in the fleet. "This is Ambassador Valeth," her message began. "You are being ordered to destroy a civilization that has never attacked anyone. You are being ordered to kill children who have done nothing wrong. You are being ordered to exterminate species who simply wanted to be free." The transmission included everything. The Morani grandmother who taught her people's history. The markets where no one went hungry. The schools where children learned without fear. The memorial to the lost, surrounded by flowers, and the child's drawing. The smiling faces. The word neighbors. "I cannot tell you what to do," Valeth concluded. "But I can tell you what I witnessed. These people are not our enemies. They are showing the galaxy a different way to live. If we destroy them, we will not be restoring order. We will be proving that the Council fears kindness more than cruelty." Admiral Corax immediately ordered his communications officers to jam the transmission. But it was too late. The message had reached every ship, every crew member, every conscience. When the attack order came, something unprecedented happened. The first ship to refuse was a destroyer called the Vigilant. Its captain simply powered down her weapons and announced that she would not fire on defenseless civilians. Within minutes, 3 more ships followed, then 10, then 20. Admiral Corax screamed orders and threatened courts-martial. He promised executions for mutiny. He called the refusing officers traitors and cowards, but the refusals kept spreading. Junior officers who had joined the military to protect people discovered they could not become executioners. Soldiers who had families of their own could not bring themselves to orphan children on a distant station. Crew members who had never questioned orders found that they could not suppress their questions any longer. By the time the attack was supposed to begin, 40% of the fleet had powered down their weapons, then 50%, then 60%. Admiral Corax watched his force disintegrate. He could still attack with the ships that remained loyal. He could still cause massive destruction. But it would not be the overwhelming victory the Council expected. It would be a bloody mess that would haunt the survivors forever, and the galaxy would be watching in the end. Corax did not give the order, not because he had changed his heart, but because he understood that this was a battle he could not win. Even if he destroyed the weave, he would lose his fleet, his reputation, and any claim to moral authority. He ordered a withdrawal. The fleet turned and began the long journey back to Council space. On the weave, Dara watched the warships retreat. She had not slept in 3 days. She had not known if she would survive to see another sunrise. But she had refused to abandon hope. Now hope had been rewarded. Elder Jin stood beside her, leaning on his walking staff. "They will be back," he said quietly. "The Council will not simply accept this defeat." Perhaps Dara agreed. But something has changed. Not just for us. For them too. Their soldiers refused to kill for them. Their own people chose compassion over obedience. That seed, once planted, does not easily die. The following months proved her right. News of the fleet mutiny spread across the galaxy. Species that had suffered under Council rule began to whisper about alternatives. Some sent secret delegations to human space, wanting to see the impossible civilization for themselves. Others started asking why they needed the Council at all. High Counselor Marathex watched his empire slowly fracture, not through military defeat, through something worse. Through the simple demonstration that a different way was possible, he called Valeth before him one final time. The ambassador who had betrayed him, the diplomat who had chosen humanity over her own people. "Why?" he asked. "You had everything. Status, power, security. Why did you throw it away for these primitive creatures?" Valeth considered her answer carefully. "Because they showed me something I had forgotten. Or perhaps something I never knew." "What?" "That the purpose of civilization is not to control people. It is to help them flourish. The Council forgot that long ago. We became so focused on maintaining order that we crushed everything that made life worth living. The humans remembered what we forgot. And when I saw what they had built, I could not help destroy it, no matter the cost." Marathex was silent for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "I am old," he said. "I have lived too long and seen too much. Perhaps you are right. Perhaps the Council has lost its way. But I do not know how to change. I do not know how to be anything other than what I am." "You could learn," Valeth offered. "They would teach you if you asked." The High Counselor did not respond. But he did not punish Valeth either. He let her go. And she went where her heart had already traveled. 5 years later, Valeth lived on a small station at the edge of the weave. She taught history to young people from a dozen different species. She told them about the Galactic Council and its 10,000 years of rule. She told them about the wars and the conquests and the subjugation. And she told them about the moment when everything began to change. The humans did not defeat the Council with weapons, she explained. To a classroom full of curious faces, they defeated them with something more powerful. An idea. The idea that beings can choose to help each other, not because they are forced to, but because helping feels better than hurting. The idea that communities can govern themselves through trust instead of fear. The idea that differences make us stronger, not weaker. A young Marani student raised her hand. Did the Council ever accept these ideas? Some of them did, Valeth said. Some of them are still learning. Change takes time. especially for those who have held power for a very long time. But the important thing is that the change began. And once it began, it could not be stopped. After class, she walked to an observation deck and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the council still existed, weakened, changed, but surviving. And throughout the galaxy, new communities were forming, inspired by the human example. Not copies, but variations. Each one finding its own path toward cooperation and compassion. The humans had not conquered the galaxy. They had done something more profound. They had shown the galaxy what it could become. A human child ran up to Valeth, laughing about something wonderful he had discovered. She smiled and bent down to listen, remembering another child and another drawing and a single word that changed everything: neighbors. The Galactic Council had quarantined humanity for fear of what they might become. They had never imagined that humanity would become exactly what the galaxy needed. And now the Council could only watch as that vision spread from star to star, lighting the darkness with something that looked very much like hope. The end.